Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Brotherly Glove podcast. Two brothers from Philly talking all things Philly sports, the teams, the players, the coaches, the ups and downs, the wins and losses. We've watched all of it, all the heartbreak. Oh, yeah, and we've covered it. 30 years combined sports media experience. And we've been to more back-to-back Super Bowls than the Kelseys. So there you go. That's what you're getting with the Fisher boys here on Brotherly Glove. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the NFL playoffs. Wild card matchups are set 6 games this weekend, including Sunday afternoon. Eagles with that 3 seed will be hosting the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to talk about their decision to rest the starters on Sunday and essentially pass on trying to get the 2 seed. Did things work out anyway? Well, if you're curious, we're going to talk about it. We're also going to look at the rest of the playoff matchups. Broncos and Seahawks earn the 1 seed, so we won't see them this weekend, but we'll talk about everybody else. We'll do a quick Philly sports roundup before going to something a little less Philly related. We're bringing in our first guest, Tim Hyland from the Old College Try Football podcast, covering all things college football. Johnny also helps out on that show. So we'll be bringing in Tim to talk about college football playoffs. The semifinals are this week. Indiana, the 1 seed, one of the most insane runs they're on right now. As far as historically, Miami's still in it. They're facing off against a team that doesn't even have any coaches right now. We have no idea what's going on. So because it's a little crazy out there in the college football world, we wanted to bring in some experts to help us through those conversations. Johnny, how you feeling today, man?
Feeling good, yeah, and especially having someone like Tim. You talked about 30 years combined experience for us. I think Tim has been covering college football for 30 years himself, so nobody better to talk about the college football playoff and an angle, the Penn State angle that would hopefully interest all the Philly college football fans.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely touch on some Penn State connections for sure. I think that there's a lot of conversation, whether it's the portal. There's some interesting SEC conversations that they'll probably dive into a little bit more on the Old College Try show. So make sure you give them a follow as well. And we'll give Tim the opportunity to plug where you can listen to that later in the week. Before we get to college, though, we're going to stick right here in Philly, right here with the NFL. That's right. We're talking birds. Like we said, end up with the 3 seed losing to the Washington Commanders this past weekend with an opportunity if things had played out exactly the same, but they were victorious to get the 2 seed. They chose instead to prioritize rest and health. If you were with us last week, we both, Johnny and I, were kind of against the decision to go with rest, feeling that they had a lot of things to prove.
Not kind of against it.
True. You were very against it. I took up the side of being against it, but I will say, as the game got closer, hearing what the players in the locker room had to say about the rest and how important it was to them to get that rest, knowing that they weren't going to have a first-round bye, that did sway me right up until kickoff. Hey, I'm going to trust those guys who are on the field every day, making sure that they feel their best. That being said, still would have liked to have seen a little bit from the offense. They did absolutely not that I expected anything differently, but they did absolutely nothing on Sunday to make anybody in the Lehigh Valley or the Delaware Valley or the tri-state area or all of Pennsylvania feel better about this offense. But John, hindsight being what it is, do you still feel like they should have gone for that 2 seed, knowing that, again, it wasn't necessarily all in their hands?
Yeah, I'm sticking to what I thought at the beginning, but I want to put it like this. First, it's not just I'm not using hindsight. I'll stick to what I said last week, and we've got, the tape doesn't lie, right? I said it. It's out there. But I'm not ranting and raving about what they did and didn't do. I'm fine with whatever they decided for whatever reason. They know their players. They know the sense of things in the building. I want them to go for it. Like we talked about, I think the 2 seed's important. You guarantee an extra home game if you win. It still could happen, obviously, because I don't think the Bears are a guarantee. I don't even know if they're favored, but I don't think they're guaranteed to win that game anyway. But I want to see them go for it. But like we said, I wanted to see. I don't think the offense is hitting its stride going into the playoffs. I want to see them still trying to figure things out. So the results from Sunday, once those guys were rested, doesn't even matter. So I don't take anything away from the game on Sunday. I wanted them to go for it, but I'm not in the camp of hooting and hollering all day and all week about the fact that they didn't. I would have liked them to be the 2 seed And it fell that way with the Bears losing the Lions that they would have gotten it if they beat Washington. So it sets things up a little differently. But the reason I want it's not just about the hosting the championship game if the Seahawks lose, because in this situation, if the Eagles get there and Seattle does lose, they're hosting it anyway because they have to go through the 2 seed or the 2 seed's eliminated already. So that doesn't even matter. It's the extra home playoff game in the next round. Now, we know what happened against the Bears at home already. I still think the Eagles are better than the Bears, and I would pick them to beat the Bears in the next round, despite seeing what happened on Black Friday. But you still want that game at home, right? I mean, if that's the way the Eagles looked at home against that team, and there's going to be a rematch, yeah, I want that game at home. And I dug into it a little bit. I went back 12 years, and then I'll take out the 2020 season, which was weird with fans or no fans, limited fans, whatever was happening. So that's 11 seasons going back 12 years, which makes 22 different entrants in the Super Bowl in that span. Okay. 19 of those 22 teams that played in the Super Bowl were 1 seeds or 2 seeds. 19 of 22.
Wow.
I'm not good at math, but that's a high percentage. Yeah. I am great using my calculator. It's over 86%. And in that same span, home teams are 18-4 in the conference championship game. Those 4 losses, 3 of them were overtime losses. And the other one was a loss to Patrick Mahomes, who I think has made the Super Bowl in 10 of his first 8 seasons. So that was so clear to me. 19 of 22 were either 1 or 2 seeds. And again, I'm over it once they make the decision. But when I'm asked beforehand, that's what I want them to do. And I still think they had more work to do on the field with the players who are going to be on the field this Sunday. But wipe the slate clean. Hopefully those guys are refreshed, and hopefully they've been in the whiteboard for the offense, figuring out all that stuff we talked about last week. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it, but I think the rest is going to be a big factor, especially when you look at who they drew in the first round. The 49ers are a hobbled team limping into the playoffs, despite what their record says. That being said, they've had a lot of injuries all year, including to the quarterback, and they still ended up with, 13 wins? Yeah. So it's still an impressive run for this team, but they are hobbled going in. And if this team truly is well rested, I think that's going to be a big leg up for them. Ultimately, yes, the home playoff games matter. I would say ultimately that if you are an Eagles fan and you think the difference between them winning a Super Bowl is playing the Bears on the road versus at home, then they probably weren't good enough to win the Super Bowl to begin with.
Sure. And
I know I'm speaking generically there, but
no, of course, like you have to be good enough to beat a team to get there. But I still think everything we talk about is about optimizing chances for wins. I mean, I don't want to sound so much like a robot calculator, but that's what everything you're trying to do is, right? Like you're trying to run good plays. You're trying to have plays work off one another. You're trying to read the defense and have responses and have answers it's all in the name of increasing your chances of winning, and getting more home games in the playoffs increase your chances of winning those games. That's all.
Definitely. Real quick, also for those of you keeping track at home, this is now 2 episodes where we've had full content. The first episode was the intro episode, and Johnny has publicly declared that he is terrible at math in 2 episodes so far. So, followed it up with saying that Mahomes was 10 for 8 in the Super Bowl. So just adding proof to what he's already stated. So for those of you keeping track at home, Johnny, not good at math. Proof is in the pudding.
We've always been into the numbers.
A couple takeaways, despite a lot of the regulars not playing from this weekend. The running back depth, Tank Bigsby, did look pretty good. Now, I know that you're going to lean on Saquon as much as possible, but even just as a change of pace back, give them a different look, give them a different feel, bring Saquon back in. I think that even they are a run-heavy offense, so I don't think that they need to do anything drastically different than what they've done to get Tank more involved. We talked about it last week. They seemingly start to run the clock out halfway through the third quarter, and sometimes at the beginning of the fourth, but they start to try to force the end of the game earlier and earlier, it seems. Once they have a lead, you can do that with a 2-headed rushing attack a little bit easier than one guy. So I would say that could be helpful, especially if they have Lane Johnson returning in week 1. And then the thing that stood out for me on the defensive end was Jeremiah Trotter Jr., guy who's mostly been a special teamer, played all 69 snaps on defense, really impressed. He was all over the field, 12 tackles, big run stops. Jahad Campbell called him a dog afterwards. He said if anybody were to go down, we'd feel very confident, and we can trust Trot, is what he said. So
Ross Tucker during the game with the analyst, and he said, and I agree with him, there was a play he looked like his father, and he looked awesome.
That's awesome. Cool. See, that they were on the same time as my game, so I wasn't able to watch closely. We are going to, for those who are curious, we're going to do a deep dive looking at Eagles versus Niners later in the week. So we're doing a general playoff coverage right now. We are going to do our deep dive into the matchups later in the week. So we'll definitely get into that, and I will have watched the game thoroughly between now and then. So didn't get to watch up close and see that play specifically, but I did see some of the success online from Bigsby. They seemingly stopped calling his number in the fourth quarter too. But again, it's when you already have questions about the play calling and then you decide to sit everybody. There's not too much to take away from that game on Sunday, other than maybe they should have gone for the 2 seed. They had a shot even with their backups, just couldn't get it across the finish line.
Yep.
Overall, though, we do have the playoff picture. Like we mentioned, the Eagles are the 3 seed in the NFC. They will take on the 49ers in round 1. The Green Bay Packers were locked into the 7 seed, regardless of what happened this past weekend. The Chicago Bears, despite losing to the Lions, they end up with the 2 seed, and they will host Green Bay. The Rams will be at Carolina, and the winner of the NFC South barely getting in, needing a lot of help to. Are they under 500? Did they finish, or did they finish 9-8? 8-9.
8-9.
Wonderful. I remember the first time I ever saw a team make the playoffs under 500. I think it was the Seahawks made it in at 7-9 because there was 16 games back then, and I believe they won in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see that happening here.
I believe that was the Beastquake game.
I think so. Yeah. Huge run.
Yeah. So tell me what you think of this, right? So I agree, and you mentioned the 49ers being a little hobbled. The Packers are hobbled. We know they lost Tucker Kraft a few weeks ago and Micah Parsons a few weeks ago. That was a little part of my thought process too, of getting the 2 seed and facing Green Bay and not potentially facing the Rams, depending on how things shook out. But if the favorites win, which would be the Eagles, the Rams, and the Bears are favored over Green Bay, then the next round is Eagles at Bears. And honestly, I like Eagles at Bears better than Eagles hosting Rams.
I think I do too.
And that's
Rams are dangerous, man.
Right. And what I realized, I want to do it to have the aggressive mindset. We talked about it with the offense too, and the way they do stuff. I think there's overall conservative attitude that I was hoping to try to chip away at. But if you try to manipulate matchups, sometimes you get bit in the butt on that. And, this might work out. If the favorites win, the Eagles would get the Bears. And then I don't know who would be favored in the Rams-Seahawks game, but it's not out of the question the Rams would win that game and the Eagles would have that game at home. Or if you go to Seattle, I'll get into it in a little bit. I know we talked about it last week, but it's still Sam Darnold. So right. This is their run game's incredible. Their defense is incredible. They seem like they're really well coached. But I don't know. It's something I want them to do, but I'm not going to harp on it. And it's the way it is now. Yeah, you got to beat the teams in front of you, and I think the Eagles can.
For sure. And like you said, if they get through this round, which I think they will. I think right now they opened as a 4.5-point favorite. At home, obviously, you expect them to be a favorite anyway, being the 3 seed and the defending champs, but 4.5 against what on paper seems like a really good 49ers team. That being said, with all the injuries, can they overcome it? It's going to be really tough. There's some bad blood between these teams over the last few years. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Eagles came out and stomped on them a little bit.
Yep.
Not something I wouldn't expect them to show you something offensively that they haven't all season, but better execution across the board will end up with the same result of a significant victory, I should say.
And I'm looking at this, and we know it's not all about quarterbacks, but I'm just going to read you the starting quarterbacks of the 7 teams in the NFC playoffs. Sam Darnold, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, C.J. Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love. Jalen Hurts is number 2 or number 3 on that list, right?
Yeah.
And, not the season they've had. People have had really good seasons. Caleb Williams has been awesome in that offense. Ben Johnson has done wonders coming over from Detroit. C.J. Stroud has made real good strides. Darnold has been
C.J. Ward. Sorry, C.J. Ward.
C.J. Ward? Who's C.J. Ward?
Well, isn't C.J. Stroud the Texans quarterback?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Bryce Young. I so often I flip those guys in my mind that were drafted 1 and 2. Stroud is
Cam Ward is who I was thinking of, by the way.
Yeah, Bryce Young. My fault. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are very different quarterbacks. But looking at so Darnold has had a great season. He's what 13 wins or 14 wins in back-to-back seasons. I just think if you look at I hate the thing of who do you trust, but who do I want on my team in big games? It's Jalen Hurts is near or at the top of that list among that group. So I like the way this is setting up for the Eagles.
Yeah, I would say that I agree. I think that you have a guy who's performed extremely well in 2 Super Bowls and was the MVP of one of them. I'd probably default to him. I think maybe you take Stafford over him, and then everybody else has a question mark.
The guy who's probably going to win the MVP.
Yeah. Even though that dude keeps getting older and feels like he keeps getting better. He's a freak. I loved him in his days in Detroit. I think that everybody kind of became enamored with him when he separated his shoulder and then ran right back out there and threw that was it the 2-pointer or the touchdown?
I forget.
I think it was a 2-point. Either way, I mean I see that clip online all the time and I have to give it a like every time. So
I think you said we'll get more into it when we we'll do the matchup specific. We'll probably talk more about some of the other teams. But let me flip it to you?
Yeah.
A little bit of a surprise to throw you off, but you've seen a lot of the AFC this year, right? So the Broncos. The Broncos have the bye. You spent a lot of time in Denver. Where else? You've seen Buffalo. You've seen the Chargers, right? Have you seen the Patriots? You've seen a lot of the
very
Steelers.
Early in the season. Saw the Patriots. Saw the Steelers a lot recently.
Yeah.
Have not seen Houston at all.
So Steelers seem to me, I don't know. They don't move the ball very well. And I know they'll be at home against a team that plays indoors with Rodgers, the wily vet, but the Texans have the best defense in the NFL. If it's either them or Seattle. So I don't know. That seems like an easy Texans win to me. But the Broncos are number 1. You saw the Patriots early, and I'll get to it again. I'll sum it up with the quarterback stuff. But the Broncos, obviously, I mean, they earned it. They did that in a decent division with the Chiefs and the Chargers, another playoff team. They've had some big wins, but the Bills are lurking at the 6th seed. Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh are lurking at the 7th seed, although they've had trouble scoring points recently. But what jumps out to you about the way that falls and who you think the favorites are?
Yeah, I think that. So I mean, Broncos being 1, I think they needed that. I think that the offense leaves a lot to be desired. They still flash a lot of plays, but the Bo Nix is pretty limited overall. I think he took a big step up from last year to this year, but the way that they scheme that offense up is very quarterback friendly. It's very what we talked about it last week. It's more system and scheme than it is Bo Nix's ability, but his athleticism and his ability to do a lot of these things, maybe not as consistently as you want from a top of the line quarterback, but his ability to take over with his athleticism adds to what the scheme is, as opposed to they build everything around him because he's such a great athlete, if that makes sense. So he's not necessarily a drop and play quarterback. Anybody could be dropped in there, like a lot of people think the 49ers system is, for example. But I would say that if you can figure out a way to frustrate Bo Nix, you have a good shot. And I think with an extra week to prepare, that's going to be very valuable for them. And getting the offense ready. The defense is very real, though. So I think whoever wins that matchup, whether it's Texans or Steelers, I guess they'll play whoever the lowest seed is, right? So assuming that the favorites win, they would play the Steelers. If the Texans end up beating the Steelers, and everybody else wins.
If the favorites win, they'd host Buffalo.
I'm sorry, I meant as favorites. I meant the higher seed. The Bills may be favored, and that's
So the Bills are favored, the Patriots are favored, and I believe I'm trying to look down at my phone and do it. I think the Texans are favored. So if it falls that way, the Pats would host the Texans and the Bills would go to Denver. And that feels, I know the Bills don't have, we talked about their little too close to a one-man show, but that one man is dangerous. And
yeah,
against that, it's he's the quarterback against a great defense. But I don't know. I would be, if they look good going out and beating Jacksonville and rolling to Denver, I'd be frightened of the Bills being in the AFC Championship.
Definitely. I think that the Bills are, I mean, when you have Josh Allen, you're as dangerous as anybody. I don't care what injuries you're dealing with. I don't care how the defense has struggled compared to previous years. You have that guy who just makes things happen year after year, and you're in a pretty good spot. So I think it was very valuable for Denver to get that. They end up getting it and holding on for victory against the Chargers, who were not starting a lot of people. Oddly enough, the Chargers had a chance to be as high as the 5 seed, but they accepted, hey, we're in the playoffs. We're going to rest our guys and see what happens. Not the best showing from them this past weekend, but again, most of their starters sitting. There's something about the Chargers that I just don't trust. It's odd that I really do trust Harbaugh, and you can see what Justin Herbert can do when everything is right, but I think that there's still something missing, and I don't know what that is, especially because I hadn't seen them in a few weeks. So you see that their record had kind of gone down a bit since the last time I saw them, and then obviously not getting a good true look at who they were this past week. And I think that is that's a problem for them. I think the inconsistency, that the Patriots are real, and say what you want or think about what you want, think what you want about Drake May rather, but he's kept himself in that MVP conversation all year. He likely won't win it, but he has looked really good. They are a well-coached, well-run organization once again, and Chargers are going to have an uphill battle. I think that the Patriots are going to win that one. We mentioned the Jags. I'm going to be honest with you, and again, I'm going to dive into the tape this week because we have them this weekend. I still don't know what makes the Jags good and what makes them run. I have a friend who's a Jags fan, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, it's like Lawrence kind of figured it out a little bit, and they all believe in the coaching a little bit more, and that kind of just has gotten them going. So, John, from your perspective, have you gotten to see any Jacksonville, and what do you think about them against the low-seeded Bills?
I haven't seen much, but the similarity there, and you mentioned it with Denver with Bo Nix, maybe not being a star, but the scheme and everything being right there, is how much hiring the right coach can just settle things down for an organization. We see it in Chicago. We see it in Jacksonville. Denver's in year 2, and we've seen it there. Who am I missing? I mean, Dan Campbell recently did it. Who am I missing? Somebody else. DeMeco Ryans in Houston done the same thing. So when you the jump when you hire the right coach when things aren't going well in the coaching department, and you bring the right guy in, and what that changes organizationally throughout, that seems to be just Trevor Lawrence. I think is the same guy, it's just in the right situation. And maybe there's something we could hit with Tim as a Cleveland guy, but I go back 1999 NFL draft. Browns had the 1 pick, Eagles were number 2, and the Bengals were number 3. There were 3 quarterbacks going to go. Tim Couch went number 1 of the Browns. Eagles picked Donovan McNabb number 2. McNabb, for all of his flaws, whatever they were, had a great career and was a huge part of the Eagles going to 4 straight NFC championships and being in the mix all the time. The Browns are still looking for their quarterback, even going back to drafting Tim Couch in 1999. And I'm not saying they would have completely reversed careers, but Donovan McNabb going into the Browns infrastructure and Tim Couch coming into the Andy Reid Eagles infrastructure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would have just flipped, but Tim Couch, I believe, would have been closer to Donovan McNabb, and Donovan McNabb would have been closer to Tim Couch if they just swapped places. So there's so much is about what's around you, and it's not just having a good left tackle, having 2 good receivers. There's so much, and it's not just the right coaches. There's stability. We talked about it with Hurts and having 11 different play callers in his last 11 years of football. There's so much that the right coach can do. So maybe Tim can weigh in on that Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb comparison when we pull him in a couple minutes. But one thing to wrap this up, what I want to say, I think there's something cool, and we talked about it before. Like, again, it's not all quarterback related, but I think we both think the 4 seeds are they're kind of like JMU and Tulane, who got the auto bid in college football playoff. I think we can kind of Maybe they'll win this game, but I don't think the Steelers or the Panthers are a threat, even with Aaron Rodgers. But
he's got DK back.
But the best quarterback, so the 1 seeds, Bo Nix and Sam Darnold, I don't know. Yeah,
they're not the best quarterbacks in the field.
Doing some nice things, but down 6 with 4 minutes left of a rabid playoff game. Obviously, those guys will be at home, but have we seen those guys do that? I don't think so. The 2 seeds are 2 second-year quarterbacks, drafted high, really good years. There's stuff there, but I don't know that that's like, hey, those guys they're ready to do that kind of thing. Trevor Lawrence has been around for a while. He's been in huge college games, and Jalen Hurts are the 3 seeds. But then you get down to the 5, it's Stroud and Matthew Stafford are 5 seeds, Josh Allen and Brock Purdy are 6 seeds, and Justin Herbert and Jordan Love are 7 seeds. So I don't know. I think this is going to be an awesome NFL playoffs because of that. I think these teams earned those things, but there's flaws in so many of these teams, and I think the mix with them all, I'm excited. I still think the Broncos have the best odds, Patriots have the second best, and then it's the Bills. I think they're a one-man show, but I don't know. The guy I'd be putting all my stuff behind is Josh Allen. Let me run this down for you about the Patriots. The big thing with them is who they've played. They've had an incredibly easy schedule. The crazy thing is they went 14-3 this year, I believe, right? And and one of the losses was to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So their 3 losses were to Josh Allen, makes sense. Aaron Rodgers, okay, I could see it. Geno Smith. Here's the quarterbacks they've beaten. So not just even the teams, but they're not always starting their best options. So they beat Baker Mayfield, they beat Lamar, they beat Joe Flacco, they beat Bryce Young, who is in the playoffs. We know that. Here's the rest of the starting quarterbacks the Patriots beat this year. I mentioned Flacco, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, Spencer Rattler, Michael Penix, Brady Cook, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart. Who did I skip on purpose? Quinn Ewers, and this can be a nice transition to Tim when we pull him in. They beat Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. So the Patriots won 14 games, but I don't really know if they're even tested. So they've got good odds, and they're going to be, if they win, they'll get a second home playoff game. But I'm not sure, man. I don't see the Patriots doing this unless things really fall their way.
Yeah, it's funny. I think outside of Denver, the team I trust the most is the Bills, despite how awful they looked at times this year. Like you said, you want someone who's been there, done it in big games at this level. And there's one guy in the field over there who's under the age of 40 who's done it. That's, to me, like you said, you can be as good as you want, but if they're in the 2-minute drill with a chance to put my team up, I'm handing the ball to him 99 times out of 100.
All right, so we'll get more into it later this week, and then next week we'll wrap up what we see. But really quick before we pull Tim in, let's just talk quickly on Philly sports. The Sixers are playing the Nuggets right now. Nobody's playing for Denver, but the Sixers are riding a 3-game win streak. The Flyers are in a playoff position, but they start a 4-game homestand tomorrow, and the last 2 are against Tampa Bay. They lead the East in points. And then really quick, the Phillies hired Don Mattingly to be their bench coach. He's the son of the GM, Preston Mattingly. Your thoughts on Donnie Baseball?
Yeah, solid move. The rumors kind of started last month that he would be leaving the Blue Jays. His contract expired, and that the Phillies were interested in bringing him in. He has a long history with Rob Thompson. He calls him Toms. Everybody else calls him Topper, so get used to a new nickname for the manager down at Citizens Bank Park. But the pedigree that he brings, both as a player, borderline Hall of Famer, and then the stuff that he's done as a manager, as a bench coach with the Yankees, as a manager with the Dodgers. I know it was the COVID season, but he took the Marlins to the playoffs one season as the head honcho. And then obviously with that Blue Jays team and how successful they were last year. So love the pickup. Apparently one of the big things that he wanted to figure out was, are we going to be okay with this whole Preston is technically my boss dynamic? So they worked through that, and they're feeling pretty good about it. So yeah, just before we move on to the college football, I wanted to make sure we touched on all the Philly sports, and not a big signing, but still a big name coming to Philly and donning the red pinstripes.
Cool. Well, yeah, Kyle, you hit the buttons and get Tim Hyland in here so we can talk college football playoffs. There's our we hit a little bit of the Philly sports around the city, but it's Eagles playoff week and the college football semifinals are here. So, Kyle, you want to intro our first ever guest on the Brotherly Glove podcast?
First ever guest on the Brotherly Glove podcast. He's also a family member, so keeping it in the family. Our cousin's husband, the wonderful host of an awesome show that Johnny has been helping us out with. Tim Hyland joins the show here. Tim, how you doing, man? Welcome to the Brotherly Glove.
Good. First of all, can you guys hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
Excellent. I had some tech issues, of course. It's always part of this thing. It's funny. I'm in the waiting room listening to you guys talk about the NFL, and this is like that. That is not my area, as you guys know, of expertise. But Johnny, you were talking about the Tim Couch thing when he was drafted, and I will say this: Terry Pluto, who is my favorite sports writer of all time. Yep. I grew up in Ohio, of course. He was like the lead columnist at the Akron Beat Journal for years and years and years. Went to the Plain Deer in Cleveland. He has contended for years. When the NFL took the Browns away and moved them to Baltimore, they were under so much pressure to get them back. They rushed them back too soon. Mm-hmm. That team was not ready to play football that first season in 1999, and it cost Tim Couch his career. You're absolutely 100% correct. That team was like they were a borderline college team. It was that bad.
Yeah, and I don't know who would have succeeded there. I mean, if Tom Brady came out that year, I don't think he would have been Tom Brady. There's too much dysfunction, and the shame of it is for you as a Cleveland guy. I know I'm in a text thread with a bunch of Cleveland people, and you guys were all talking about Cleveland Browns dysfunction again this week.
And that's my next question before we get to college football. I'm just dying to know, you guys as NFL guys. Again, I am a casual observer of these days of the Browns. Stefanski, to me, never seemed to be the problem. What's your guys' thoughts on the Browns firing Stefanski?
I think it's foolish if they're, and I know other people have said it, but if they're keeping the GM and firing the coach, I mean, the coach instantly became the best coach on the market.
Yeah.
And a couple teams top choice. So we've talked about before about you don't do it based on what the other team's fans want you to do or not want you to do. But like, there's always those moves where if a starter's struggling and you take him and you leave him in, the other team's fans are going, thank God, right? I'm not saying thank God, but if other teams are going, oh my gosh, Kevin Stefanski's available, let's hire him, maybe look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's the first thing that stood out to me was the rumors that 3 teams were already speaking to him like the moment the news broke that he was fired. So it's all I heard about him the last 2 seasons was how he might be one of the better coaches and one of the up-and-coming coaches. And for a team full of dysfunction to fire a guy that everybody else seems to love seems like another foolish decision in a long line of them.
And I get, Johnny, you're now on this text chain with my family, and like those are diehard Browns fans. Yeah. There's not one person who has a negative thing to say about Stefanski on that thread. There's not one person. No.
Well, he did go to the prep, so we hold that against him.
Of course. Yes. Johnny and I did not go to the same Catholic all-boys high school in the city, but we both still hate St. Joe's Prep. So,
there you go.
One other thing I want to get your thought on as you were waiting. Don Mattingly calls him Toms and other people call him Topper. Regardless of that nickname, nicknames in baseball and everywhere suck now, don't they?
What?
Neither of those nicknames is good. The guy's name is
Rob. I like Topper.
Rob Thompson. We can't do better than Toms or Topper. That sucks.
Oh, I think Topper's a solid nickname.
This could be before you guys' time, but how about Boston pitcher back in the day when Clemens was still pitching for the Red Sox? I think he's number 2 or 3 star. How about Oil Can Boyd? Remember him?
Boyd was one of my favorite baseball cards. Absolutely. Just nicknames have gone way down, and that just made me think of that. So
hey, well, we got Donnie Baseball in Philly now, so I'll take.
So we want to intro you properly, and I don't know if you're the bragging type, but we talk about our 30 combined years of sports media experience, all this different stuff we've done. If I'm not mistaken, you've been covering college football in one way or another for 30 some years, right?
Yeah, I would put it that way.
I know that makes you sound old. It's not what I'm trying to do, but you've seen a whole lot of college football stuff. That's why we wanted to talk to you. You started.
It is a sport that has been central to my life, like literally my entire life. Mm-hmm. I've talked to you guys before. Growing up where I grew up in Ohio, first of all, Ohio State is just everything in a way that you really can't understand unless you grow up in a college football sport like Nebraska or Alabama or Louisiana. It's just like it is ingrained in the culture, right? My dad took me to a Notre Dame game when I was in eighth grade, and it was like this mind blowing experience. I love the sport. I've loved it since I can remember, like watching any sport. These days, you know, now I have kids like you guys do, right? Only so much bandwidth for sports watching. So I'm down to college football, baseball, and soccer. That's all I can watch anymore.
Yep.
And 80% of that is college football. So I love the sport. It's a really interesting time for the sport,
Yep.
both for good and for ill. And I think we're really in a really precarious time
Yep.
for the sport, even as it is enjoying more popularity by the ratings than ever before.
Yep.
But let's discuss what's happening right now.
Yeah. Your freshman year at Penn State, you worked. It was 94, Penn State's Rose Bowl undefeated Rose Bowl team.
Yeah, it was great. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I went to this school. We win every game by like 30 points.
And I would say, I wouldn't draw a direct line, but Penn State not being voted the national champion that year is somewhat related to the stuff you were just talking about and where we are today with the 12-team playoff and automatic bids for Sun Belt conference teams. The Sun Belt didn't exist in 94, did it? I mean, it's crazy how much has changed, but that is one of the pieces. And you know, we've talked about it. You've invited me on your show, and we've talked about it in person about how things used to be and how crazy it is to think things used to be this way all the time. And it was just accepted. But Penn State went undefeated and was awesome. And there was another undefeated team. They never got to play each other. And they just voted the other team number one. And Penn State was number two. There's nothing you could do about it. It's part of the reason we're here now, right?
That's so weird.
It is. This is the thing. So you guys, again, I'm just like, you guys are Philly guys, right? So you're East Coast guys. So your prism of sports is mostly professional sports, right? Am I speaking truth here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those sports have someone in charge. There's a commissioner. College football, there has never been anyone in charge in the history of the sport, which is why we are where we are. People freak out about the current system, and I agree, it's messed up right now. But again, when I was, to Johnny's point, a freshman in college at Penn State in 1994, that team was one of the greatest teams ever to play college football. There's no question about it. 3 top 10 draft picks, I think, off that team with Kyle Brady and Kajana Carter, and I'm blanking on the quarterback's name right now. Yes, Kerry Collins. But this actually, Kyle, you may have been before your time. They were undefeated, 12-0. The thinking was, and this is when we voted for the national champion. We voted for it.
Yeah, which is another crazy thing.
It was Penn State and Nebraska. The thinking was, and the dialogue was, this actually was in the open, was like, well, Joe Paterno has won 2 titles already, but Tom Osborne hasn't. We should give it to Tom Osborne. That was the thinking. So, like, they gave it to Tom Osborne. Right? So, our current system is messy.
A national championship.
So, yeah, there's 132 teams that play this sport. There is no system to do it right. I will say this, though. This playoff this year has been wildly entertaining.
Yeah.
And again, Johnny, you're now in our world, in our text thread. The story of the Indiana Hoosiers is, at the same time, one of the most remarkable stories in the history of college sports, and also one of the most unremarkable stories in the current context, because everything we've known about college sports our entire life, my entire life, has changed completely, because it was always about being great in college football. It was about your brand, cachet, and the money you're paying behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like no one cares about brand or cachet. They want the money up front. And Kirk Cednetti, he's done an amazing job, and he's built a great culture. but it's about players at the end of the day. And he's built a roster in this current system. That's the reality when we're at right now. So if you're Penn State, yeah, the good news is next year you can build a roster and win, but so can every other team in your conference all down the line. It's a fascinating time for the sport. It really is.
Yeah, something I wanted to point out before we keep going. You talked about Penn State and just the vote at the end of that year. This might even be crazier. Penn State was number 3, and they won at Michigan. They moved up to number 1. Their next game, 2 weeks later, they beat number 21 Ohio State 63-14.
I was there. Yes.
Were they number 1 the next week? No, they fell to number 2 and never got back the rest of the year. They beat a top 25 team 63-14 and dropped in the rankings to never get back.
Mm-hmm.
And the equivalent, Kyle, would have been, imagine if at the end of the AFC and NFC championship last year, they didn't play the Super Bowl and people just voted on either the Chiefs or the Eagles.
Yeah, look, I'm not a spring chicken by any means, but this is the oldest conversation in sports I've been a part of. Back in my day, we didn't even play for a championship. There was 132 teams.
It's insane, right?
136 now, by the way, Tim, just to make you feel a lot worse. One of them, JMU, half our family went to, and Signetti came from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there were some really cool ties, Signetti and all that stuff. So let's talk really. I mean, right now there's 4 teams left. We've got the 5 seed Oregon will face Indiana, who's the 1 seed, and then Ole Miss and Miami. I mean, it's almost stunning that either of those teams are playing right now, right? Because Miami was the last team in and was not even inside the playoff picture until the day the playoff field was announced, right? They were behind. I mean, I know that's not we can all say what the rankings actually are and everything just resets and whatever, but the way the rankings were released every week, Miami would not have been in the field until they didn't play conference championship weekend and then jumped Notre Dame. And they had been behind them the whole time. And then they win 2 games, including beating Ohio State, a heavily favored Ohio State team. And then Ole Miss, we know all the stuff that happened with it. Not just the drama, but like take even the drama out of it. The drama was crazy and all the stuff that went down, but they're also without their coach, and they might be losing coaches as the playoff goes along. It's incredible that these teams are still alive, but that's also what kind of makes this awesome for fans. So I don't know. I'm excited for this week, but Ole Miss Miami is almost stunning that it's even happening.
So real quick before you dive into that, Tim, for those, because I know that we're a Philly-centric show, so there's a lot of people who might not know what the drama is. Quick roundup. The Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin just left and took another job before the playoffs started. And at first he was letting his coaches that he's going to take with him stay behind at Ole Miss, and some of them are. And one guy's the head coach for 2 days. He might be gone before the semifinal happens. So just real quickest version you can. What is the drama in Ole Miss, or did I just kind of hit it all?
Jesus Christ, there's too much. So there's
for
the Ole Miss thing.
They can check out your show, Tim. But let's do the quick version.
To put it in context, imagine being the head coach of the Eagles, and you coach them the entire year, and you're in the playoff, and you leave before the playoff to go coach another team, but you leave some of your assistants behind, in theory, to be a nice guy to have them coach the guys through the playoff. But what's happening in reality is you are poaching players from those guys, which is happening right now. We have guys in Oregon, 2 guys, I think, already, who are players who play for Oregon. They play starters or at least contributors who have gone in the transfer portal in the midst of the playoff. They can't play anymore. This whole system it's absolutely insane. The Ole Miss situation, I think, is just a tragedy. The calendar needs to be fixed. The problem is, again, there's nobody in charge. Yep. And the people who are in charge, there's Tony Petitti, who runs the Big Ten, and there's Greg Sankey, who runs the SEC. Greg Sankey's job is to do what's best for the SEC. Tony Petitti's job is to do what's best for the Big Ten. That has nothing to do with what's good for college football or the players or the coaches or the fans, right?
In fact, I would say that the best thing for the SEC and the best thing for the Big Ten is very much not what's best for college football.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to point out, too, not just another team, Ole Miss and LSU are in the same division. There's no divisions anymore. But this would be like if yeah, if Nick Sirianni went to coach the Raiders, this would be like if Nick Sirianni was just hired by the Giants.
Yeah.
And then Patullo came back and Vic Fangio, they left, but then they were back. But then, well, hey, the Eagles won the wild card round. Actually, you guys are coming back. You're not coaching there anymore. It's bananas. But it's a shame that
that leaves and takes Mailata with him. Is that what this is like?
Yeah. Like, that stuff might be overshadowing the incredible game that Trinidad Chambliss had the other night, who all 4 quarterbacks in the semifinals are transfers, but he came from a Division II school, and he was incredible. Mike said it, that if the Heisman voting was after that game the other night, that Chambliss would have won the Heisman, and I think I agree with him. He was awesome.
Johnny, by the way, you sent the text saying that Temple tried to get Chambliss.
Yeah.
What was the price? $300,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
I'll say real quick.
Temple's entire budget for school as well, not just NIL. For the classes,
I'll say real quick.
Teachers,
for those games, I was stunned, having watched college football a long time and watched Ohio State dominate us for a long time. Miami physically completely dominated Ohio State. No question. From the first snap. 2, I was stunned what Chambliss did in the fourth quarter, given all the challenges that Ole Miss has right now against Georgia. I was not at all surprised by Oregon thumping Texas Tech, but my God, what Indiana did to Alabama.
Pure domination. I mean,
there's no words. There's no words for it's 10 years ago. If you told me that, like, no, that's it's impossible for Indiana to be in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
It's impossible for Indiana to beat Alabama 38-3. Kyle, that is the biggest bowl loss in Alabama's entire 110-year history of playing football. Like, that's 80 bowl games and playoff games. They've never lost a game that bad. And it's Indiana. Like, this is the world we're living in. And Cignetti has signed basically the 4 best guys in the portal in the past 4 days.
Incredible.
So for I had to do a little bit of research. Not a big college football guy, as you mentioned. There's a great article by Jason Gay from the Wall Street Journal.
He's a great writer, by the way. I love him.
Oh, yeah. I've read him before. And it's hell of a movie is the way that the title starts. Indiana's insane college football season marches on. And I'll let you read the entire thing. Go check it out because it's worth the read. But he basically, the idea behind the article is like, you could travel 10 years in the past or 100 years in the past and tell an Indiana fan that this is happening, and it would be the exact same reaction. That's how bad this team has been forever, and now they're undefeated and 2 victories away from winning a college football championship.
And he's done it in 2 years.
2 years.
Yep.
And so, like, the only comparison in college football, there's 2. Frank Beamer at Vatech, but it took him 7, 8, 9 years, and Mike Vick to get to that point, right? And then Bill Snyder at Kansas State. Kansas State was, before Indiana, the losingest program in the history of college football. But it took him too, like 8, 9 years. And now, and this is bad news for every coach in the country, Cignetti has done it in 2 years.
Yep.
That's the model.
Yeah, I was going to say it just shrinks the window for every head coach. Is going to be, there's not going to be these 10-year deals with buyouts after 3 years. It's going to be, hey man, if you're not done in 3 seasons, then we're going to move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
Does this kind of obviously Cignetti and his ability to attract people through the portal? He obviously not the same scale. He did it at JMU and turned them into literally an FBS school. I mean, they were FCS prior to him being there. He ends up getting them over the hump and finally getting into that FBS class, and then he moves on now with money, able to really dominate the portal as he has. Clearly there's something there with him as a coach. I mean, the guy has all the confidence in the world, but Tim, you mentioned it earlier that the game is all about the dollars and the players, and we can see that with a different semifinalist in Ole Miss, right? They had Lane Kiffin and a great coaching staff behind him, but here they are winning without him, without some of the players, without some of the coaches, because they were the top tier talent available, and it's much easier to get them to come to your school year after year. Is that kind of Ole Miss as the example, but Indiana doing it in such a short time combined with that, is this kind of the alert that college football needs, that something has to stop? Like, you have a team that's so good despite their coach freaking out. You have a team that's one of the worst in history. 2 years later, they're undefeated. Is this something that is going to shake up college football, or are we going to be having this same conversation in a couple years?
I'm going to try and condense this into a very, very short window. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and please stop me if I'm rambling too long.
Okay.
We have time.
So I have long contended the two sports that in my life are the most similar in terms of fan engagement and their relationship to their team. It is college football in America and it's soccer in England. And the reason is it's not based on where you live. It's like it's tribalism. It's like you become part of a tribe and it's your life. Okay? And I feel like the people who run college football are taking for granted that emotional connection that has been there forever, but they're pulling threads. Back in the day, it was pulling threads of like, okay, we're no longer going to have Texas play A&M every year, or Oklahoma play Nebraska every year, or Penn State and Pitt. Like you're pulling threads. You're taking things that are part of the sport out of the sport. And then the conferences become not regional. They're just like all of a sudden Oregon and USC are in the Big Ten, which makes no sense. It's a regional sport, right? And then it costs an arm and a leg to go to any single game. Okay. You're pulling threads, you're pulling threads, you're pulling threads. And now we're at this point now where it's like the one thing that college football fans care about is like they truly love their program. And now we're seeing, and I don't blame the kids, I don't. It's become totally transactional. Amari Campbell, a great linebacker for Penn State, he came from UNC last year. He said today on his Instagram or whatever, he's like, I cannot be disrespected. I want to stay, but they're not paying me what I want to be paid, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's his right. But if you're a fan of Penn State, it's like, do these kids even give a shit or whatever? And my point is this. A couple of years ago in English soccer, European soccer, they've also been pulling threads. And the whole basis of the soccer system in England has been this, pyramid system where it's like relegation, promotion. That's it. You earn your way up or you fall down. They tried to create this Super League, which is the NFL of European soccer.
Yep.
Okay. And the fans, even the fans who were invited to be part of the Super League, revolted. They're like, absolutely not. This goes against everything we believe in. And they killed it. I'm just saying, I think college football needs to be careful because people will only go along so long before it doesn't feel like their sport anymore. Am I being dramatic here or
No,
not?
not at all.
I think that's right on, Tim. That's kind of. Go ahead, John.
You mentioned early, Tim, like just your bandwidth for what you can watch, right? I mean, everyone is going to be in that position in some way. And whether it's financially, can you continue to go to games, have season tickets, make trips, whatever. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are going to find the same thing, and it's going to be easy to cut. You don't want to be the choice.
Yeah.
Make it easy on people to drop you. And I think that's what a lot of these things are. They're flirting with. Sorry, Kyle, you go.
No, it's fine. So I agree, Tim. Even though I've never been a big college football fan per se, one of the things that I've had troubles with, and part of it was bandwidth. I had a kid young, so I changed my fandom when I was young. But like I stopped watching hockey as much as I used to because I felt like the rosters were turning over every 3 years.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I didn't love about college basketball and college football, and why I really only focused come playoff time, because I was like, man, these rosters, not only are you turning over every year, but like one guy I'm going to watch on Sundays and the other guy is an insurance agent. So like, of course, and now that it's turning over even more often. So as someone who didn't go to a big time college football school, it becomes even harder to be invested in anybody, especially when we just mentioned, Temple's best offer on the table got rejected in a heartbeat by a kid who was D2 the year prior. I feel like D1, I don't know. We mentioned 136 teams, and 20 of them matter, and 20 of them are, and 18 of them are in the Big Ten. Not a math pod. We established that in the beginning. 18 teams in a 10-team conference makes a lot of sense. But
Kyle, you mentioned college basketball. I mean, like when I grew up, college basketball was amazing, but you had these teams who were like together for 4 years building up to something, right? I was in grad school in 2002 at Maryland. It was Lonnie Baxter and Juan Dixon and those guys, and they'd gone through wars for 4 years against Duke, right? And they finally won it. And that's college basketball. I could care less anymore. I can't even say, Kyle. I can't see it.
That's fine. It's a book called A Soaring Season about the 03-04 Hawks. They had a 4-year guard in Jameer Nelson and Delonte West, running them to the Elite Eight. Like this, we wrote books about it because it was such a team that you could fall in love with. Now it's like by the time you're writing the book, the kid's gone to 2 different schools.
Oh my God. And then we have guys coming into college basketball who are playing from their pros in Europe and stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that's happened this week, I can't figure out. All right. Anyway, let's talk about actual football because
let's have to get to the matchups, right?
But the playoffs has been exciting, right? I mean, there's been some blowouts and stuff, but it's been a fun watch, right?
It's been, I think, like I'm complaining about the sport and all its problems, but like you could not argue with the product in the field.
Yeah,
you just can't.
I would say even Indiana's like blowout, just Indiana's story and the way they manhandled Alabama, like it was awesome. And in that setting in the Rose Bowl, like, yeah, of course we're all conditioned to think that if a game has to be close to be great, that was a great watch. And if you're a fan of what's going on, and I'm sure, I mean, I would imagine most of America was certainly behind Indiana in that game, if not, as their pick to win the whole thing. And then the night game with Ole Miss and Georgia was incredible. Like there's been some really fun stuff so far, and watching Miami do that to Ohio State, not just like the plucky little upset, but like you said, they were tackling hard.
Yes,
and it was evident on the screen from like the first couple plays that man, this team is serious, and they might be able to hang with the Ohio State Buckeyes. It was impressive, and like it's really cool that. I remember one of my buddies pointing out that, the upsets in the NCAA tournament are fun until you get that second round blowout, right? Like we remember when this team, Northern Iowa won in round 1. We don't remember when they lost by 35 to the 2 seed in the following round or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we're seeing that here. These are legitimate teams. And, certainly we're talking 68 teams versus 12, but I think Miami's good. I think they're flawed. They're flawed teams, but like, Ole Miss, it's really a shame the stuff that happened with the coach and the timing, because I think everybody would really be behind Ole Miss too and watching what this kid is doing. There's been some awesome football, and I think Oregon's a really likable team too. Like I think this is a really great semifinal field, and I think these games this weekend are going to be way better than at least closer than what we've seen mostly across the board.
I will say, I think if you're being honest about it, first of all 4 teams could win it. There's no question about it. I think everyone's in agreement. The most likely team to win it has to be Indiana.
100%.
Which is mind-blowing.
Yes.
It is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And like, what was I just going to there was something I wanted to ask, and you're right. It's Indiana is the choice, and it's kind of cool that they're like they have to be the fan favorite too, right? Like, I don't know how you can't get behind this. I think the coolest thing that's happened to me too is I know decently well now 2 legitimate Indiana football fans, like from jumping in it and messing around on your podcast with Mike. Your co-host went to Indiana and is a huge college football guy. And then a friend from town here, I moved 2 years ago. A guy, a big sports fan, just like a lot of people we know, was from Pittsburgh and went to Indiana for school. And I haven't known him until Indiana had Kurt Cignetti. It's crazy that, and we were actually talking this afternoon, and he's going to the game, going down for 24 hours, and he's just saying, just even thinking about that is mind blowing to someone who, you know, has been an Indiana football fan since going there for college 20 years ago.
I will say too, I want to just give credit to Dan Lanning. That guy is a unique character in his own right. Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to Oregon when they played Auburn, God, going back, I think it was the year of Cam, what's his name?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton. When that Oregon team lined up against Auburn, you just knew Oregon couldn't win. They didn't have the bodies, right? They were not there. Lanning has changed that completely, and that roster is physical, and they can win it. Ole Miss, absolutely, they can win it, and I think Miami, of course, they can win it. And I think this is a great thing for college football that all those four teams can win it. I think, Johnny, as you know, with the exception of Miami or not, with Alabama, and then of course JMU, I think any team in that field could have won.
Yeah.
This championship this year, and they're going to expand the playoff, which I don't agree with. They're going to do it. They're going to change things again. But again, to wrap things up, I think it is at the same time the most exciting time in college football, and also the most perilous time. And I worry as someone who cares about the sport, who is going to step in to fix it, because if you have a coach leaving his team before the playoff, if you have players in the playoff leaving their team during the playoff, something is wrong. If yesterday Lanning and Cignetti were on a press conference for the game this week, they said, I don't have time to coach my team because I'm dealing with guys in the portal right now.
Yeah.
That is a problem.
Yep.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to be a revamp of the calendar, man, for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think? You think there's anything to we're only in year 2 of this, so we have a very small sample size, and we know the answer from year 1. They were all the favorites, so the seeding was messed up. But teams with the first round bye are now 1-7.
Yeah.
In that second round, do you think there's anything to that, or is it just? I mean,
no,
it's
there
very
is.
comfortable. The first year, teams were misseeded. Penn State was a 12.5 point favorite against Boise State, right? Like, we get that. It was done incorrectly. They made the fix, but then this year, 3 teams with a bye went down. The only one that won is Indiana.
So Ryan Day, which by the way, I do love Ohio State fans are the most miserable fans on the planet. There's no question about it. They want him fired again. He won the national title last year. Anyway, he was so concerned about the delay, the long break, that he hired a sports psychologist for his team. And his perspective was 27 days off. That means your season ends and you're starting a new season after 27 days.
Yeah.
He's 100% correct.
Yeah.
Do I think Ohio State would have beat Miami if they played 7 days after? Yes.
Yeah.
I do. And I think it's totally unfair to the players. How can you possibly play an entire season and sit for a month? That makes no sense.
Right.
Right? They're scared of the NFL calendar. But NFL's there anyway.
And when it was just bowl games, both teams were in the same position. You're finding this imbalance now.
Right.
Where a team's coming off a win, going up against a really good opponent, trying things, and coming in with, I know we're scared of the word momentum, but coming in with some confidence of what they've done. I wonder what the quick fix for that is going to be. So real quick, let me flip this to Penn State. How soon is Penn State in the playoff? And how about this? As you're mulling that over, I know I surprised you with that. I'm going to read you Penn State's schedule this year.
This year or next year?
This coming season. And you tell me if Penn State could be in the playoff with this schedule. Their 3 non-conference games are home against Marshall, on the road against Temple, so all the way down to Philadelphia, and at home against Buffalo. Marshall, Temple, Buffalo. Got to think they're 3-0. Their road Big Ten games are at Washington. That's a tough one. At Maryland, at Northwestern, at Michigan. They're home against Minnesota, Purdue, Rutgers, USC, Wisconsin. Notice teams I didn't mention there: Oregon,
Ohio State.
Indiana, Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa.
At first blush,
could Penn State be in the playoff this year?
yeah, 100%. If they're not in the playoff, they should be embarrassed. That's a schedule they should walk over. Michigan will be a shambles. Penn State, by the way, in the transfer portal, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, they currently have 18 guys from Iowa State coming to Penn State.
I was going to. I thought it was going to be a dozen. 18. Yeah.
18.
My goodness.
Including Rocco Becht, who's like, the stud quarterback, but also the backup quarterback is coming.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw that.
And again, I don't love it, and I feel bad for Iowa State, but this is the business we're in right now, right?
Yep.
This is it. So I think, Johnny, to your question, if Penn State's not in the playoff next year, it's a failure for Matt Campbell.
Yeah, and isn't that crazy that we're going to start this guy's tenure off that way?
Yes.
Because what are the games they should lose here? I agree. I wouldn't say at Michigan. I mean, maybe at Washington, maybe USC at home. I
think maybe at Washington. Maybe at Washington.
Right. They could be undefeated. It depends on when those fall and if we've got a bye week, and we don't know what Washington's going to be. But I don't know. I don't like to get too far ahead, but I noticed that and I thought, wow, I got to look at this again. Are there some teams missing on this schedule? Is this true? And yeah.
I want to say too. So speaking of just Brave New World, I've told you, Johnny, I really enjoy on Sirius the Sunday morning show that they do in College Sports Nation. It was Dari Noka and Oklahoma guy. I forget his name right now. He's great. He calls games. Blanking out his name, but he was talking about the new reality. This is hey, this opens the doors for programs who have been a few players away. And I think what he was getting at, which is, it goes directly to a Wisconsin, and his example was Iowa. Mm-hmm. Iowa has always had an incredible defense and great special teams and great discipline. They've always lacked one thing, a quarterback.
Yep.
He's if you could just get $5 million together and get a quarterback, Iowa all of a sudden could be Indiana in 1 year. And he's totally right. Yeah. Totally right.
Josh Helmer, is that the guy you're thinking of?
No, it's Dusty Dvorak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kyle, how about a big family brotherly meetup at Penn State at Temple next year?
Yeah, we can get right on that. Chase can get us some student tickets, and we can
Anna too.
The old College Live show. Yeah, Kyle's son goes there. Tim's son goes there. Kyle graduated from there. The first old college try live show.
Yes.
We could. The nice thing is that we'll have plenty of space to try it at Lincoln Financial Field because no one goes to those games. So
we won't have to worry about the soaring cost of attending a college.
We don't have to worry about background noise. We'll grab some.
Tim, any last thoughts on the college football playoff, college football at all, or anything else that you heard us say or wish you heard us say?
No, I just think again, it's a real tumultuous time for the sport. And I think as baseball guys, I was texting my dad the other day. The reality was baseball back in the 1919 after the Black Sox scandal?
Yep.
They were forced into having to put Kennesaw Mountain Landis in as commissioner because they had no choice.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like college football is going to get to the point where there's going to be a crisis. Someone's going to have to be in charge.
Yep.
And until we get there, it's going to be this crazy situation right now. And I feel like the way college basketball is going is a indicator of where college football is going to be going.
Yeah. So, I think do you think it's more likely that they find some kind of commissioner to stabilize things, or that there's actually this, you mentioned it with the soccer, I don't know if it's the same scope, but I think it's more likely that there's some sort of breakaway of some, top 50 or 60, and almost Division I split in 1A and 1AA. back in the day. I almost wonder if 1A is FBS now is going to split again. I think that's more likely than someone coming in and stabilizing this thing, which stinks for the MAC and the American when they build these teams and give them a shot. Boise State would have never existed the way it did. That feels more likely with as much money that's on the table.
I mean, the obvious guy who would, I truly mean this. Nick Saban is the most obvious choice to be the commissioner of college football. He is.
Oh, you don't want Condoleezza Rice in there? You don't think that she would be?
No, I don't. No. But Nick Saban, plus they all respect him.
Yep.
They all have connections to him, and he would speak truth to power.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. And that was Kennesaw Mountain Landis. He was like, "Shut up, I'm in charge."
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and you just said everybody has a connection to what all four head coaches. Well,
which is crazy.
All were connected to him. That's pretty. Pretty wild.
It's crazy how unanimously beloved he seems to be, especially for a guy who had on TV. He has that the look and I think a lot of fans think he's a hard ass, right? Which we know that at that level of college football there has to be some insanity there. But I think that's almost anybody who's good and seen yelling at people, like it's almost like, whoa, is this guy okay? But every coach speaks glowingly about him. It's really cool what he established as a guy who he was not always well received the way he went to the NFL, came back to Alabama, put in an uncomfortable position having to answer that question to begin with. But it wasn't like Nick Saban hasn't been this like governor of college football figure for his whole career, and now that he is, and all these people he's come across, and man, he seems almost universally revered by all the people he worked with.
Well, do you see the joint press conference with Cignetti and Lanning this week? They both, of course, worked for him, and Lanning said basically like he was going to take a pay cut to go be a GA to work for Saban to get his PhD in college football. And Cignetti said he learned more in 1 year working for Nick Saban than he did in the previous 27 years.
About building a program, yeah.
That's insane.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
All right, well, we're looking forward to the rest of the old college try as the playoff goes on. And
hold on real quick.
I'm already looking forward to the Penn State Temple game next year.
Oh, yeah. We got to get it in the books now. Tim, before you go on, I know I might be stealing some thunder away from your show, but for those who are here and still with us, talking maybe the only time they'll talk college football until that meetup next year on the Brotherly Glove podcast. Quick hitters. Who wins the two games this week?
I think you have to take Indiana, and I think you have to take. I think you got to take Miami. I do. I think at the end of the day, it's the guys up front, and those teams up front are they're better. So.
And Kyle, Tim had a running bit all year that he didn't remember who his lock of the week pick was. So he may not even remember these picks when he wakes up.
Well, it is late out here, so Oregon. I think that's going to be a great game. I think that's going to be the better of the two games. The score might be closer in the Miami Ole Miss game. Might be a lower scoring game there, but I think. Oregon's only lost this year's to Indiana, and it was a close game then and back in October. So I think that should be a fun game, fun week of the semis for the college football playoff. Tim, plug your show for the people on the way out the door.
So we've been doing it 14 years now. It's been just a vanity project for the most part. I will say Johnny has reinvigorated the show. Mike's a prima donna, and he needs I think he felt threatened when I asked Johnny to be on the show, so Mike came back to the show. But it's just a show we've been doing for 14 years, and it really is just the audience is mostly people in our orbit and their friends and whatever, and we've gotten nice comments over the year, and it's just not so much about just the games. It's really about again, I'm a softie for this sport and all its traditions and all the warm and fuzzies it gives me every single weekend in the fall. So check us out, the old college try. And Johnny, thanks. It's been awesome having you on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's been fun to just chop it up with you guys. You guys know your stuff. It's a really good challenge for me to make sure I'm on point to talk college football with you guys. All right.
Well, you mentioned it's a pleasure having Johnny on. It's a pleasure having you on, Tim. I appreciate you giving us the time, man, and we are looking forward to checking out the Old College Try for everything through the semis and the finals. You can search the Old College Try anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Amazon, wherever it is, or you can go to oldcollegetryshow.com and get links to everything you need there. Tim Hyland, thank you so much for joining us, man. Johnny, anything from you on the way out before we wrap the show?
Nope, just thanks again for helping us out, Tim. This was fun.
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate you, Tim. Appreciate you, John. Tim, we're going to let you go as we wrap up. Johnny, we talked about it earlier, but we're going to give the people a more in-depth look at the Eagles versus 49ers. That game will be this Sunday at the Lincoln, South Philly, 4:30 kickoff, if I'm not mistaken. Big-time matchup. Kind of, despite not being in the same division, a nice little rivalry has kind of been brought up between the two. There's another word in there that I'm missing right now. We're not a vocab pod either, not a math pod, not a vocab pod, but we promise we're going to bring you everything Philly sports with a little analytical lens, a little fun along the way. Clearly, we're getting family involved all throughout. Now, we appreciate you guys listening. Again, make sure you give us a like, subscribe, follow everywhere on socials. You can check us out on X at Brotherly Glove Pod. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube for all of our shorts, all of our updates. We will be back later this week for the full deep dive Eagles-Niners this Sunday, first round of the NFL playoffs. Johnny, it's been great as always, man. Appreciate you, and I'm excited to get this thing going in 2 days. Just 2 days away, another episode.
Yeah, man. We'll be back with more on the Eagles.
Let's go. Let's go, Birds. Let's go, Brotherly Glove. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later this week.